Welcome back. I'm Mountain Jace. Hopefully you've all had a chance to watch the previous episodes in this expedition to your peak fitness. For those that haven't yet, let me quickly do a 360 of where we currently are. But before I do, here's my money back guarantee to you. You'll hear things on this channel that you won't find anywhere else, and that they will be immediately actionable, make a profound difference to the gains you get, and will not only deliver tangible physical benefits, but also build your personal sense of self-esteem along the way. Oh, and I promise not to browbeat you by using too many fancy Latin names for the various parts of the body. This ain't no dive into the crusty world of academic textbooks. It's a real-world climb up real-world challenges to deliver real-world results. So far, I've purely concentrated on what I call the foundations of fitness. These constitute the bedrock of what you need to understand about how to optimize your gym training experience. They shouldn't be ignored. In the same way, if you were starting to learn to play the piano, you would most definitely have to know what the different keys represent and how they are shown in written form. Without this understanding, you'll be left flailing to make any kind of worthwhile headway. You should not only know the foundations of fitness, but also be able to logically argue why each one is as it is and what happens when you ignore these core tenets. This ability to interact with what I laid out will strengthen your resolve to fight through the temporary difficult transition of breaking away from everything you thought you knew about training and replacing it with a set of goal-orientated disciplines that make total sense, especially when put under the spotlight of logic, reasoning, and real-life experience. On this last point, it is imperative that, where possible, you scrutinize and personally verify the changes I'm encouraging you to make. As I said in episode 4, the aim of this channel is most definitely not to brainwash you into becoming a cult follower. We all know how that ends, as with the Liver King debacle, where lies were packaged as dreams so that an inferior human being could manipulate others for financial gain into thinking he was some kind of demigod. No, what I want is for you all to become leaders in your own right, so that when, in the months and years ahead, you're working out in your gym and you see a person who unfortunately looks as though they're misguided rather than just unworthy of making it to the fitness summit, you'll be able to cogently explain why they are needlessly throwing away 90% of the potential gains on offer to them, and how to make the actionable changes required so that they can go on and earn the benefits of successful training. Let me give you a few examples of this interactivity of logic. If I point out that there is a more effective way to do a particular movement, where more effective means I'm asserting that you will engage more muscle fibers and so derive greater increase in fitness down the line, and yet when you try that which I'm encouraging you to do, you find that the movement actually becomes markedly easier than before, then you must reject this advice. For there is no mechanism by which you can do the same weight whilst also stopping energy from leaching onto nearby bone or secondary muscle groups. Conversely, if I advise you to change your technique and immediately you are unable to do the same amount of reps as before, indeed you in fact have to cut it in half, then this is a moment of enlightenment, no pun intended, which needs to be rejoiced. For this means that now only the designated muscle is engaged, and as such you have put yourself in the enviable position of potentially lighting up to 50 of the bulbs along the stairway to heavenly gains. This is the nirvana of training we all strive to attain. To convert these words into actionable practice, I urge everyone who thinks they are training the chest muscle by way of using a flat bench and an Olympic bar to do the following. Next time you're in gym, before you start your usual workout for that day, zip over to the bench press and do the following. Put on a good weight, something quite close to what you would say is your normal 6+ rep max, and go ahead and do a set. Then, when you're ready, without changing any of the plates, make the following 2 simple adjustments. Lift your legs up so your thighs are now pointing vertically to the ceiling, and there is a right angle at your knees so that the section below that leads to your feet is approximately horizontal. Secondly, once you've grasped the bar in your hands, instead of having your elbows up high on the same line as your shoulders, pivot them inwards so that they are almost touching the side of your rib cage. Keep them in this plane as you lower the bar. Don't return them to the shoulder height at any point. Now try to repeat the set you just did, going slowly down and slowly up. More on this in another episode. If you've understood my instructions correctly, I'm willing to bet you can't even do 1 repetition. I'll leave this example there so that I can come back to it at another time when I exclusively focus in on chest training techniques. But for those who have the honesty to try it, think deeply about what the result means in answer to the following question. How can Mountain Jace be right when he blatantly asserts that most people barely get between 10 and 20% of the fitness gains available to them because they are guilty of doing nothing more productive than cheat straining? Anyway, time is precious, so let's jump straight in. In the next set of videos, now that the foundations of fitness are in place, I want to start to build some solid training structures that will guarantee you are able to break free from fitness mediocrity. We'll be going from the macro to the micro of what you need to know so that you won't be one of the 9 out of 10 people I see every day that are wallowing in returns on their workout sessions of only a few percent. A very important skill to learn is that of being able to know for yourself whether you are training productively or not. It's all very well proclaiming to understand what you should be doing, but how can you explicitly confirm that you are in fact doing so? I ask this of myself every time I train. It's all too easy to succumb to technique drift. Well, I've already touched on one in the last episode, which is if you're not reducing your weight after each set, or conversely, if you're doing what almost everyone else is, i.e. finishing a series, say of 4 leg presses on your highest weight, then you're definitely not training productively. It is impossible to claim that you have managed to destroy a whole heap of muscle fibers, the fundamental catalyst needed for your body to receive the signals to build back better, and yet also appear to be at your strongest after 4 killer sets of 10 reps. The only way this can come about is if you, in fact, let your body circumvent the process of muscle engagement, of which there are a multitude of ways, from passing the weight through the bone, using joints like pulleys, by limiting the range of movement, or just simple mass displacement, all of which I'll cover in a later video. You are cheat training, and there are no winners in that con. Let me take a quick digression here to highlight exactly why cheat training is so corrosive to your store of self-esteem. In life, there may be an occasion when lying is warranted to attain a gain, the benefit of which is greater than the harm done. One can imagine a mother who genuinely needs to get food for her child being forced to step over this moral and legal line. It's not great, but in terms of survival, it's understandable. Fine, but cheating yourself is a whole new level of desperation. There can be no winners No way to justify turning the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune onto yourself. That's life's job. When you cheat train, you are saying to yourself that you are inherently not worthy of success. That failure is your natural state of being. Subconsciously, your mind takes on this deleterious indictment and slowly begins to infuse everything you do with the same self-destructive subtext. Being honest with yourself that your biceps aren't strong enough to move a 20-kilogram bar is a start to a redemption of character that, once set off upon, quickly becomes self-reinforcing. So, you have to ask yourself, what is more important to you? Doing the right thing or having the person way over on the other side of the room think you can curl 20 Ks? Anyway, let's get back to what I was saying. If in set 1 you've wiped out a significant number of muscle fibers, you must have to reduce the weight in order to give yourself a legitimate chance to do a meaningful number of reps in set 2. That's just a fact. If you feel nervous about dropping your weights for fear of what strangers might think, take solace in the reality that you're now not one of those idiots that believes it is possible to actually get stronger as they supposedly break the very thing that generates this power increase. When I myself train, this fall off in performance between each successive set is what I'm always happy to see. Indeed, I get angry if I don't, because it means I failed in my core objective. Let me give you a tangible example. It's my belief that stomach muscles, leaving aside the girl bait effect of a well-defined six-pack, are extremely important to ensure one's core is strong enough to allow the rest of the body to perform at its best. Hence, I train my abdominal muscles at the start of every workout session. And I do so in a way that promotes functionality over any thoughts of gaining brute size. So, this morning I did crunches on a bench that is declined backwards and at which at the top there are 2 pads that I fold my knees over and under to hold me in place as I recline my upper body. Just a standard piece of gym equipment. Anyway, the first set I can do approximately 23 near perfect reps. I'll explain what makes them so in a video specifically on this body part, but let's just say I manage to light up 42 of the 50 lights on the Stairway to Heavenly Gainz barometer. Equally, I force the intervening breaks to be less than 1 minute apiece, which means that when I start my second set, my body is forced to bring up the reserve battalion, as referred to in episode 4, to enter the battle that awaits. As such, because there's basically nothing I can do to alter my overall body weight, save for perhaps peeing behind the Smith machine, I am then only able to do about 13 reps, a 43% decline in performance. And that makes me very happy indeed, because it confirms to me that I killed it on the first set, to pay homage to the late Rich Piana. The exact same thing happens when I do the third, and importantly, see my previous video, why, last set, though the drop away in reps is not as significant because all reserve soldiers are made alike, whereas the frontline ones are an elite brigade. That's why they're put in the front line, so their loss has a great numeric impact. Et voila, that's one very informative way of checking in the heat of the battle, so to speak, whether you're staying true to your strategy for fighting to banish mediocrity in the pursuit of fitness victory. Another equally crucial telltale sign as to whether you are winning or not is, are you breathing heavily? And this should never be overlooked. It is the gold standard in confirming whether you're hitting a muscle or cheating for a miss. Please pay double attention to what I'm about to tell you. It's much overlooked, but it's the single most accurate way to reveal the truth about your workout productivity. But before I go and get that video ready for you, might I ask, if you have found the contents in this one to be a revelation in your goal to reach the absolute heights in your fitness potential, then please return the kindness and hit the like and subscribe icons. That way, together, we'll become a team strong enough to reach any of life's mountain peaks. See ya on the next stage of Mountain Jace's climb to peak fitness. Thank you.